Welcome to the AW Services YouTube channel. In this video, we're back again with the pan tilt head. This is the standard wired remote control that you can buy additionally, or if you purchased one of these CamRanger Bescor Hague pan tilt heads from brand new, you will get this wired remote control. £30 in the UK. When you look at it, it's just a plastic box with 4 buttons and a 4-way cursor on top and a variable resistor for a speed control. However, the wiring on this is about 1 meter long. So if you want to upgrade this and rewire it with some longer wire, or whether you're in the United States of America, you might call this cord, wire, cable, flex, whichever you wish to call it, you'll need some multi-core wire. Ideally 7 or 8 core. This is flexible bell wire, which is for burglar alarm, intruder alarms here in the UK. Got this on Amazon. I've used lots of this before. You'll need a new replacement 7-pin DIN plug. These are made by a company called Reen. They're exactly identical and a bit cheaper than the Nutric brand, which are the best in the world in my opinion. They are like a cast aluminium housing, so they last a lot longer. And you may also need some replacement rubber shrouds or grommets or strain reliefs, because the factory one here might not be salvageable, so you'll need to replace that into the remote control. But I'll get on with this very shortly, so stay tuned. Step 1, you need to take apart your case that holds your remote control. You'll find 3 very small black Phillips head screws on the rear of the case, and then when you get inside the case you'll have 4 silver screws that hold the PCB that holds the remote control section in place. So this is the inner of the remote control. When you take it apart, you must be careful not to lose the small black variable resistor, potentiometer slider that can come out. Also, a good tip is to get a container that you can seal, and whether you sneeze, you'd knock something off your workbench, you're not going to lose the screws for your project. And then here we have our soldering tracks onto our PCB where the wire comes out. And there is a tip: sometimes where you have these strain relief glands, these grommets, these shrouds, which are normally heat kind of welded, ultrasonic welded onto your wire, you can sometimes save them. And the tip really is to once you've marked all your wiring diagram and you've taken a photo of this for reference purposes, because you'll have up, down, left and right on here, and also the speed control wire, you'll need to make sure that you can put those back. So with these here, you can sometimes, once you've cut your wiring off and desoldered your tabs onto your solder tracks, if you twist the existing wire firm enough while holding this, you can sometimes break it free from the actual ultrasonic weld inside, and then you can reuse them. However, I have some additional ones that I purchased, which are these here. I think these are a 5mm rubber, silicone rubber. I've used a lot of these on projects, and these will fit the project and they'll work equally just as good. But you'll need to make sure that you use a small cable tie and a dab of hot glue, and I mean really high quality hot glue, to hold that in place, and you shouldn't have any problems. But I'll catch up on the next step with you. Stay tuned. Just a very quick important tip before I start soldering: always make sure you have a reference to your wiring, the orientation of your plug, and you must remember that some circuit diagrams and information regards to plugs and soldering sometimes can be in reverse, because you've got the back of the plug, the front of the plug. So all of the wiring that I'll be doing and the wiring diagrams that I share are with the plug plugged into the unit. So it's either the socket of your pan tilt head that you're referencing, because all my wiring will be logically clockwise from bottom around, or the same on the plug, if that makes sense. So it's all exactly the same and it's easy to understand. Okay, just about to solder my replacement wire on, and I bring into shot my third hand. Brilliant piece of kit. I must just touch upon this again. A die cast heavy base with 2 crocodile clips that I've replaced because the original ones weren't that good. And I now have a bit of weight in this, so I can hold that still, and then I hold the soldering iron with one hand and touch the wire against the contact and solder that. So I'm just about to start soldering. Okay, join me back at the circuit board. So my new wiring is all soldered back onto the circuit board pads. It's important when you're doing this to not have any like fraying strands of wire, because you can short circuit and bridge out the original circuit board tracks. There isn't a lot of space between them. They are extremely small, so you have to be very careful when soldering. You also need to make sure that you're not putting too much heat into your soldering, because you can actually delaminate and damage the circuit board tracks that are on the board. Extremely fine tip on the soldering iron as well, but those are put in. This isn't a tutorial on how to solder. I've been soldering since I was about 10 years of age. I know what I'm doing that makes me happy and makes my projects work. But yep, steady hand, concentration, eye for detail, and that's that particular part done. And you'll join me shortly on the next part. And the next step is, once you've soldered your wiring back onto your circuit board, you then reattach your circuit board to the inner of the remote control enclosure using the 4 silver screws, ensuring the variable resistor or linear potentiometer is in its little slider. So when you turn it over, your slider actually functions and works. And then reattach the back using the 3 black screws. Okay, join me back. I've now reassembled the remote control end of the wiring, and the next step now is to work on the plug. The main important thing here is to ensure you've got the outer of the plug casing onto your wire. You'll have to excuse me, I'm doing this with one hand and I'm trying to hold the rest of the wire with my stomach to stop it moving. So yep, make sure you've got the casing on the wire before you do any soldering. In this packet there is a small Phillips screw that I put safe in my sealed box out the way. And just a warning really to anyone that's wanting to attempt this project, you have to be very good or very detailed at soldering. I'll just show you why. If the camera will focus, this is the 7-pin plug we're using. It's a DIN plug. The DIN plug format has been around since the late 60s, early 1970s, and it's very, very small contacts. So you have to have a good eye for detail and some very steady soldering skills. And also the use of heat shrink is absolutely paramount, because it ensures you can insulate your connections from each other and that you don't have any shorts. So the wiring diagram for this plug I will place on the screen now. Then you can write the numbers down that you see, and then you can work out the pin configuration, but I'll talk you through it once I get soldering. And once I finish my wiring diagram, I will then draw that up and publish that at the end of the video. And then once you've watched me do it, you can then go to the end of the video if you wish to do so, and you can then see the wiring diagram. But it's a handy little project if you've got your CamRanger, your Bescor or your Hague pan tilt head, and you're not wanting to use the 1 meter original wired remote control, and you're wanting to modify yours at your own risk and make your wire longer. Or you can just cheat and do the lazy option and buy a 7 DIN plug, male to female extension lead, but they're a lot of money. You know, if you're looking to buy a 7-pin DIN plug for 5 meters, you're looking at about £29–30, I believe. But you know, it's a nice little project, something to do, and I'm enjoying it. It's keeping me busy. But you'll join me back once I'm soldering this plug. Okay, I'm just about to solder the plug on. The important thing is to strip the wiring back, make sure that it's not frayed whatsoever, and tin it lightly with some solder so you've got one single strand per each conductor. Cut them to a length that you find best so they fit inside the plug, and you can crimp them, and then cut them down gently just so that they are the right length to then slide into the plug, because inside of the plug you have little grooves they go in. So yeah, do that and we'll be back shortly. Okay, welcome back. That is the 7-pin DIN plug wired on. At the beginning of the video I did recommend the make of this one being, I think it was Reen. The model number is there. Ignore that. This plug is a cheaper copy of the Nutric brand. However, the Nutric brand has slightly bigger wells on the sides of the pins to where you can slide your wire into and solder. These were a lot smaller. This job actually took magnifying glass, tweezers, and a really steady hand. And I would probably say that that is about the smallest solder job that I can tackle nowadays. We all get older, our eyesight gets worse. The old glasses do help, however it is extremely tricky. That's the plug done. I've crimped the end of the plug and I'm about to put the outer casing on, and you'll see that in a minute. Okay, there you go. Just sort the exposure out. That is the plug, 7-pin DIN plug, soldered on, crimped. The screw is back in there as well. I have tested the actual wiring before I put the plug together, and during soldering I've tested it as well. So that is the CamRanger Bescor Hague pan tilt head original remote control, which I'll bring into view now. The original remote control, however, I've rewired it on 5 meters of 7-core cable with a newer plug that isn't like the factory plastic plug that it originally left the factory with. It has a nice cast, maybe stainless steel plug on there now, 5 meters of cable, and we also have the remote control modification. But if you find this video helpful, please subscribe to support the channel, help it grow. Check out the description for parts used. Check out my playlist, which I'll put into the top right hand corner of the video now for the rest of the projects. Subscribe, press the bell icon for notifications when new videos are published. Like, share, comment, give it a thumbs up. See you soon. Bye bye.